Good morning, and welcome to part 3 of our Healthy Homestead webinar series entitled Healthy Homestead 3, Are You Ready? I am Cynthia Borders, and I serve as chair of the National Trends and Services facet of the Fort Lauderdale, Florida chapter of the Links Incorporated. Today, we will host expert speakers in the area of Social Security, Medicare, insurance, wills, and power of attorney. We hope that you will find this information helpful to your individual financial planning. Again, on behalf of the members of the Fort Lauderdale, Florida chapter of the Links Incorporated, we extend a warm welcome to each of you, and we thank you for joining us today. Please join me as we welcome our chaplain, Patricia Glasgow West. Pat?
Good morning, everyone. Let us center our hearts and mind. May our Heavenly Father bless, guide, protect, and forgive, and be with us and our family members. May this new year bring us good health, peace of mind, wisdom, thankfulness, and love for God, our family, friends, and neighbors. May we always know that love will always win. Everything we do it with love, and God will be pleased with you. May the love of Christ be with each of you and your families as we thankfully welcome 2023. Happy New Year, and I love you all. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning and Happy New Year. I am Mary Rudd Robinson, co-chair of the National Trends and Services facet. This is the Fort Lauderdale chapter of the Links Incorporated, third and final segment of our Healthy Homestead series webinar. Healthy Homestead is a signature program of the southern area of the Links Incorporated. The program was meant to address the issue of Black land loss and the issues, problems, and solutions dealing with that. This chapter took it a step further in that Healthy Homestead meant all aspects of being healthy and getting and keeping your house in order. So Healthy Homestead 1 dealt with Black land loss. Healthy Homestead 2 dealt with investment, retirement, and home ownership. And today's Healthy Homestead 3 deals with insurances, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and physical soundness, which includes living wills, power of attorneys, and more. We have some dynamic speakers for you. So I will give you the overview of this program, how it's going to go today, and then we will get started. Our first presenter will talk about insurance, life insurance, whole versus term, and so on. Our next presenter will talk about Social Security. After that, the presenter will talk about Medicaid and Medicare. And after that presenter, our final presenter will talk about physical soundness, which then includes the living will, power of attorney, and more. So we're getting started. And let me say, we are indeed glad to have you here this morning. Our first presenter is Mr. Antonio Woodbury. Mr. Antonio Woodbury has been providing insurance services to the South Florida community for the last 11 years. He specializes in Medicare Advantage, but also offers a variety of insurance products. He is also a licensed real property broker and property manager who loves the arts, reading, and spending time with his son. Mr. Woodbury, take it away.
Happy New Year, Happy New Year, Happy New Year. My name is Antonio Woodbury, and I am I'm a Medicare Advantage broker, a real estate broker, and also life insurance advisor. So with this segment, we're going to talk about life insurance. Life insurance in our community is a lot of people don't understand life insurance. Life insurance, mostly, for example, terms, most people have that and they feel like, well, if I have some type of insurance, it's good. But what they don't understand about term insurance is that term insurance is just like renting an apartment or renting a car. It's temporary. 90% of terms get outlived. And a lot of people go through life with just term. Some insurance companies will tell you, well, why don't you just buy a term and invest the rest? But people 9 times out of 10, they never invest. So they outlive the term, and it's a detriment to the community and also the person that owns the term. Let me give you an example. 2 days ago, I had a client that I signed up with Medicare. She's 73. She got the term when she was 43. So she had a 30-year term. And that 30-year term, she outlived it. She didn't have any money that was invested in the term because the term costed her only $67 a month. When she outlived the term, they said, well, if you want to keep this term, it's going to cost you $1,200 per month. She's not the same health that she had when she was young. So now she's out of insurance. She wants the same coverage, but the coverage is going to cost her arm and leg. So when you have terms is mostly for like a breadwinner, or for example, if you want to put a term for a home, God forbid something happens to you, and then you purchase the term because it's going to be cheap. But again, 90% of the time, terms get outlived. That's the first one. The next policy or insurance would be a whole life. Whole life, it's a policy that you have, and it stays the same far as the premium. A lot of people believe that it costs more than a term, but the thing about it is that it's forever, and also it builds cash value. Whole life, for example, myself, I purchased the whole life 5 years ago, but the way we structure the whole life policy, it packs in a lot of money inside of the policy. And once you put this money inside of the policy, you can say, well, hey guys, I want to be able to pull something out. So I was able to, with this whole life policy, I was able to pay off credit card bills. I was even also able to purchase an apartment building in Alabama with the insurance. What people fail to realize with the insurance, with a whole life, is that you can pull money out at any time. And the next policy would be an IUL. So it's almost similar because both of them do have cash value, but the whole life policy that we use at the firm, it's almost like a microwave. As soon as you put money in, you can pull out 90% of it right away. So for example, if you need to purchase something right away, you can pull money out of it almost like a bank. It's way better than a bank because when you put your money inside a bank, they don't give you any interest. The next one, again, is the IUL. The IUL is like slow baking. It's almost like putting something in the oven and you waiting 2-3 hours for it to come out, compared to the whole life. The whole life, you can pull out immediately like the microwave. But with the IUL, it takes a little longer, but it's better because, so the IUL, you can use that like a retirement plan. You can put money into that and then say you want to only put in for 10 or 20 years, and then you can cut it off. You don't have to put any more money into the plan. And then the plan continues to gain interest and packs on interest on top of what you already put in. So it's 3 different ones. It's 3 different plans that we usually help people with. And life insurance is not for death. Most people think, well, if I get life insurance, I can't use it. It's for my family members. But that's not the case. You can use it while you're living. And also with the IUL, it has different features to it. God forbid something happens. Like in my family, 2 years ago, my grandmother had a stroke. And she had a plan, a Medicare Advantage plan, and they assumed that this Medicare Advantage plan would help with long-term care, which is not the case. Since all of my grandmother's children, she had 7 children, they everybody has their own life. So it tore the family up because my grandmother didn't have long-term care. Inside of an IUL, God forbid something happens to a person, you can take money from out of that plan, and also it has the long-term care plan packed into it. So you can use the life insurance for different things. For long-term care, you can use it to pay your bills. You can use it to, well, not like I'm sorry, I got caught up. Not like monthly bills, but for example, a credit card bill. Or I have doctors that pick up a whole life policy and they're able to cut the time in half to pay off student loans. That's about it far as with life insurance.
Do you
Hello?
do long-term care insurance?
Yeah, so
Just
inside of a long-term, so with long-term care, that's a life insurance policy. So for example, you would pick up a IUL, which is an index universal life insurance, and it has long-term care built into it. Compared to just getting a long-term care policy, you can buy life insurance to use as long-term care.
Okay, you said that is Index Universal Life. Is that what it's called?
Index Universal Life, yes, IUL.
Okay. And I know you were telling us, but that's different from the whole life. How?
So a whole life, it's like the microwave. It's not going to accumulate money as fast as an IUL. An IUL is built into the stock market. So if the stock market goes up, you get a little bit of the stock market. But if the stock market goes down, you get zero. It never goes under zero. That's what the IUL. So the IUL takes a little longer than the whole life.
Well, let me ask, what if is that the same thing as having a universal life? And I was wondering, because I knew somebody who has what they call the universal life. And you
Yes.
paid into it, and then that's it. You paid for a certain amount of time, and that was it.
Yeah, so
then-
it has to be structured a certain way. So for example, you can have a policy. Well, I'm going to talk about myself. So I have an IUL, right? And my IUL, I have a low death benefit. So I pack in as much money as the plan can take. So my death benefit on this particular policy, I have numerous ones, but this one, it's $450,000 death benefit. But I put in $1,666 a month in this plan. That's the IUL, and that's $20,000 a year. Compared to a whole life that I have, the whole life it's $250,000, and I put $833, which is $10,000. So, but my IUL is for retirement. So I'm putting money into that until I'm 65. So when I turn 65, I'm going to cut off paying, and I'm going to start taking money out like a Social Security. Compared to the whole life, for example, if I want to go out and say, I see a piece of property in Fort Myers, a piece of land, I want to pull out of that. But the IUL, that is only for my retirement. But God forbid something happens to me, then my mother would get the death benefit.
So you're telling us, especially if you're younger, that we should use the insurance policies for investment purposes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask, what if you are us? Let's say you're in your late 50s, early 60s. What kind of life insurance without paying $1,000 a month?
Well, it all depends. What is the person? What are their goals? What are they looking for? So if a person is looking for to just put money away for death benefit, or are they looking for to save? Because a person at 55, I think a person at 60 is still young because we're outliving. We
I
got
do
people
thank
out.
you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Person, so for example, if you're 50 years old, you can put in X amount of dollars for 10 years. And then after that, you can just cut it off, and it's gonna continue to accumulate money inside of the policy. You don't have to continue paying every month. Like my grandmother, I have a grandmother that's 89 years old. When I was coming up, it used to be a guy who would come pick up the money, and he would write on the back of this envelope and say she paid. So it's totally different. Life insurance is not the same as it was years ago. It's new. It's almost like people say, well, I don't want life insurance because it's only for death. That's like you talking about, I got a flip phone. Flip phones are obsolete, or having a phone in your house.
Okay. You also do health insurance?
Yes. So
Okay, now for health insurance policies, can you talk about that depending on whether you're younger or older?
So I do Medicare. So I'm a Medicare Advantage.
Okay, well, then we're gonna wait on that. We're gonna wait on that. Were there any questions in the chat on insurance, on life insurance or long-term care insurance?
If we could have our guests who are participating with us, if they have questions, to drop them in the question and answers, and one of us can
okay.
field those for you because the chat is
All right.
disabled. And I do see that we have Carnell Gatson who's present, and I don't know if he has a question, but if you entered in question and answer, we'll be glad to entertain it.
It said chat has been disabled. I don't know. Okay. Do single people over 70 need life insurance is the question. Do single people over 70 need life insurance?
Yeah, I think everybody should get life insurance, because before we started the Zoom, we were talking about, people passing the can around. I think that even if you just have burial insurance, it's important. The younger you are, the better it is for you to get life insurance, because the older you are and you start having different situations in your life, having high blood pressure, cholesterol, and they go off of your age. So the younger you are, the cheaper the insurance is. The older you are, the more expensive it is, because they have to take a chance on you. So a person at 70, a person at 80 should have life insurance. Not these high tech like IULs and things like that,
Right.
but just like final expense. Just have something in place. God forbid something happens to you and your family has to bury you, because we don't want them to use your body for science.
Do you do final expense? Just for
Yes, we have someone that's in the office that does final expense. I don't actually do final expense.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Next question from Mr. Woodbury is, when you take money from the policy, is it tax deductible?
Yes, it's tax deductible.
Okay. Next question is, they say they're a 62-year-old female with 2 adult sons and 3 grandbabies. What insurance is recommended to support generational wealth?
Oh, that would be an IUL. But again, when you get these policies and you want it like generational wealth, that's wonderful to have generational wealth. But the thing about it is, what's more important than generational wealth is education, because if you're not educated on how to continue having generational wealth, the money would just vanish. So an IUL, and then also when you're talking about generational wealth, you got to also think about how much you want to pack into it, because we have some people that say, what's the least I can get put in to get the most? But you want to know what's the most you can put in to get the most. So for me, I pick up a life insurance policy at least once every 2 years. The more money I make, the more money I put into life insurance, because and it all depends on what generational wealth looks like to that particular person.
Okay, I want to go back to the question, when you take money from the policy, is it tax deductible? The person had a follow-up to that. They said, in other words, is the withdrawal taxable?
Yes, they take taxes out of it. You can take the taxes or you can have it without taking taxes, but when you file your taxes, you'll have to pay taxes on it. And the thing about it, for example, so the money that I took out of my policy, I had them take the taxes out before they sent it to me. And then I was able to purchase the apartment building. So again, and another question I'm thinking people might want to know is, if I take money out of this policy, do I have to pay it back? And the question is no, you don't have to pay it back. But if, for example, say a policy is 500,000 and you pull out 50,000, if you don't pay it back, God forbid something happens to you, then they will deduct that off of the 500,000 and then you'll get 450,000.
Okay, that was the next question. You've already answered that. Does the withdrawal from the life policy reduce the value of the policy? Okay.
Yes, it does.
There's another question that's in the chat box. It says, there is a requirement at 72 for you to take withdrawals from your retirement. Is it the same with life insurance?
No, you can take withdrawals at any time because it's your money. And life insurance, and you don't have to, you know, they're not going to run your credit or anything. The money is accumulating inside of your policy, and you can take it at 80, 90. It doesn't have an actual age on it.
And I think you answered this already, but if you can answer it again, because there's a question in the chat. What type of life insurance policy do you need in order to use for investments?
The index universal life and also whole life. But again, it has to be structured. It has to be designed a correct way.
Okay.
It's all about how they design the policy because it's different ways.
All right. Let me see if I see any other questions. Just let me know if I hit him to answer all the questions that were in question and answer, as well as the chat.
Yep, let me see. What is it?
All questions answered.
Okay, I think that we are pretty much on time. I have a timekeeper, Sheila Gibson. But I'm looking at the clock and I think that we have
One more question. If you
one more
transfer
question.
money, if you
Okay,
transfer
let me
money from a
see.
401k into a new
Okay, oh,
IUL,
yeah.
is there a tax?
Did you get that, Mr. Woodbury? If you
No, I didn't hear.
transfer money from a 401k into a new IUL, is there a tax?
Yes, so 401ks are pretty interesting. They tax deferred. So it's almost with IULs, it's almost like kicking the can down the road. When you have not the IUL, the 401k, I apologize. The 401k is like kicking the can down the road. So an analogy, if you had some land and you were planting watermelons and you went to the plant store and you purchased some seeds and they gave you 50 seeds and they said for these 50 seeds it's going to be $2.50. But the person at the register tell you, no, it's okay, you don't have to pay the $2.50 right now. You can pay after you harvest. So when you go out and you plant these seeds and you get 250 watermelons, and you say, well, I'm gonna go to town and I'm going to sell these watermelons for $5. The guy at the register say, hold on, wait, you didn't pay the $2.50 at that time, but now you have to pay on each one of these seeds. So it costs you more when you have a 401k because the money has accumulated compared to paying the taxes now. So when you have an IUL or a whole life, it's already pre-taxed as far as the money. But with a 401k, you get taxed once you have built it all the way up and now, you know, the IRS or Uncle Sam says, hey, you have to pay us now. So yes, it is taxed, the 401k.
Okay, I think that we are out of time. We're gonna ask Mr. Woodbury to put his information in the chat, so that if you need to talk to him later or hire him or whatever, you can do that. But we need to go on to the next panelist now. Okay, our next panelist is Mrs. Velma Blaine. Mrs. Blaine is a graduate of the Bethune-Cookman University. Mrs. Blaine worked for the Social Security Administration. Now I want you to listen to this. She worked for the Social Security Administration for 49 years and was the district manager of the Fort Lauderdale East office, becoming the first African-American to hold that position. So Ms. Blaine really knows what she's talking about when she talks about Social Security. Ms. Blaine?
Good morning, and Happy New Year. My objective this morning is to introduce you to a system. I'm going to call it a navigation tool, and I'm going to call it Social Security GPS. It's something that I recently coined for your future and your family. When it comes to Social Security, Americans may not see eye to eye on many things, but they agree on the importance of Social Security, and no wonder. The program has been around for over 86 years, and it has become the bedrock of our retirement finances. Social Security is the largest source of income for most retirees. It never missed a monthly payment since it cut its first check in 1940 to Ida Mae Fuller. Social Security is one of the most successful anti-poverty programs in the country has ever created. Without Social Security, 21.7 million Americans will be below the poverty line, especially in the minority community. Now, Social Security does more than send eligibility checks to retirees every month. It provides income to surviving spouses, widowers, as well as their children. We administer the disability program for those individuals who qualify as being disabled. And although most of the people who we pay are retirees, 6.9 million are under the age of 65 who receive Social Security, including 1.2 million children. Not surprising, Social Security has widespread support. Social Security recently, good news, excellent news, for the first time in 40 years, Social Security recipients and beneficiaries receive the highest cost of living increase in 40 years, 8.7%. So it's a lot of happy people. And the reason being is because of the rate of inflation. So for example, the average person whose Social Security was about $1,600, they got an increase of about $170. That's a lot of money. It has never happened before. But high inflation did impact the increase that we are receiving. I am anxious to talk to you about our online services. It is one are the best. In front of you, you will see our website. And it is so important that you follow me. And for those of you, you will have the option of watching the screen, or you could actually log in. If you have another device, log in. So we can walk through this, ssa.gov. And I give you a moment to log in, ssa.gov. And we're going to navigate, and you're going to see what's available at your fingertips 24 hours a day. And I have to say, it is one of the best websites because most of the questions that you have is right here on the website is your answer. So we're going to get started. When you log in to Social Security, ssa.gov, you will see the first page is saying securing your today and tomorrow. And you will see 3 phrases. And since I'm having a share screen, I will have someone to navigate the screen for me. You will see Social Security, and you will see securing your today and tomorrow. You will see a section that's called prepare. You'll check eligibility for benefits, and you'll see supply, and we will scroll down. You will see how you manage your Social Security from home. A person who's receiving Social Security benefits could get a benefit verification letter. They could get a tax form. They could update direct deposit information. You could get a Social Security number, an application for a replacement Social Security number online, change your name, update to sex identification. So go down. Now, look at my Social Security account. It is very, very important that we all create an account. So click on learn about your account, my Social Security account. When you click on, you could create your personal Social Security account. It's free, it is secure, it provides personalized tools. Whether you receive benefits or not, it is important that you go on to check your earnings to make sure they are properly posted. You could estimate your future benefits, and you could manage the benefits that you already receive. Just scroll down. What can you do with my Social Security account? Every person in this country who has a Social Security number should have an account. And if you're not receiving Social Security benefits, you could get a personalized retirement benefit estimate. You could get an estimate for spouse benefits. You could check your application status. And if you are receiving benefits, some of the things I just covered, most times when you go into a Social Security office, it's really not necessary with this particular website. Scroll down. Why create an account? It is quick. It gives you immediate access to information about you on a personal basis, putting you in control of your time. It is secure, it is protected, and it is easy. So whenever I run into someone, I ask them their names, we talk. And one of the things I mentioned, do you have a My Social Security account? It is most important. So we're going to stroll down. Now we're going to talk about Social Security and some of the benefits. Let's go into About SSA. If you're following us, welcome to Social Security. It tells you about the fight that Social Security provides financial protection for most Americans. We administer again the retirement, we administer the disability, we administer survivors and family benefits, and we enroll individuals in Medicare. We supply Social Security numbers. Social Security is complex and it is unique, but this website is one of the best for answering most of your questions. So let's stroll down. You're just going to read, looking for Social Security. We're going to go check eligibility for benefits. We're just going to click. And what's good about this website is the fact that you need to take time. You need to take time just to play around with it, look at the different categories. And like I said before, it's like a GPS system. When you go into one section, it may reroute you to another one, and it's all intertwined. It's like a road map. So you could check eligibility for Social Security. Let's click on that one just to see. Are you following me? Okay, so we got the, so we went to about SSA. All right, let's go in to contact us. But in essence of time, there's something that I want to talk about. Online services. How can we help? You could use online services to apply for benefits, to check the status of a claim, replacement card. Let's view what we have to offer online. We're going to review what it is that we could take you and help you save time and save your dimes by going into a Social Security office. It's right here at your fingertip. Online services. We are constantly expanding online services to give you the freedom 24 hours a day to conduct business with us. You can apply for all sorts of benefits. And some of the most popular online services, if you will look, what you could do is review your information. You could view the latest statement. You could view your earnings history. You could apply for benefits. You can manage your account. And one of the ones that's very, very important is, I'll scroll down a little more. If you could scroll down, all right. When you go into this website, it tells you all about your rights, how you can appeal. It talks about Medicare. It talks about retirement. When you look at retirement, there is an online calculator that you could estimate what your retirement would be. It's part of your planning for your future. It's right there before you. There was a time when people depended on pensions, which is becoming a thing of the past. And we used to encourage everyone to, of course, save for a rainy day. And then there's Social Security. Social Security is strong and it is a steadfast. So hopefully all of us are planning for our future. And when you go into our online services, they even give you different topics that you can link into. Just link into, just take time and see, I wonder what this is all about. So you could become extremely knowledgeable about Social Security. Let's go back up to frequently asked questions. Let's go back up to contact us. All right. All right, go down, go down. Now, before you call that 1-800 number, and sometimes there is a lengthy wait, before you get in your car, come to a Social Security office, do you realize that it's right here on the system? Before you considering calling, take a look at frequently asked questions. And this particular website is so informative that in the search, you could just search, you could just come up with the topics of interest that you want to talk about. It was like a navigation system. It will route you to that question. Most asked questions, they let you know, how much was the 2023 cost of living? How can I get help from Social Security? On and on and on. And if you're reading, you can see, what do I do? How do I get a statement? How do I schedule an appointment? All you have to do is click and your answer is there. Scroll down a little. A lot of the questions that you have, they even break it down by topics. And these are, we've done a survey of the most asked questions when people come into Social Security. For Social Security numbers, what do I do? What do I need? All you have to do is click on that particular area. Online services, retirement, understanding it. Scroll down. My Social Security disability. People do not realize how empowered they could become with Social Security when it comes to this website. And as I said before, there is no need for you to go in line when you could do it online. So hopefully after you realize how wonderful this particular website is and get familiar with it, most of your questions could be answered. And there is no need to go into the office or to call that 1-800 number. You need to look at this website before. I strongly recommend that you look at this website before you go into a Social Security office. And as I said before, Social Security, it is a complex program, and Social Security is largely a pay-as-you-go program. Most of the payroll taxes collected from Social Security are used to pay benefits for today's recipients. We get our money from payroll, from interest from bonds, income taxes on Social Security benefits. Now, to address the elephant in the room, with Social Security be there for me? Well, I was there for 49 years and it was there. And on a lighter note, I would say Congress is in charge. They are aware of the problems. Anyone knows when you pay out more than you take in, you need to address the issues. And we have committees. We have, trust me, we have individual, all the experts are looking into the situation to make sure that we are financially sound. And what I tell everyone, what you need to do is to really, no matter how young you are, if you are working, you need to prepare for your future. And unfortunately, people do not realize that children without parents, they're entitled to Social Security benefits if the parents have worked and paid into the system. If, God forbid, you should become disabled, you could qualify for Social Security disability benefits. If you are permanently disabled, or it is expected to lead to death. But Social Security is a wonderful program. It is one of the best websites. And in essence of time, I think my time is up. I'm going to say, when you have those questions, I'm going to say to you primarily, it's on the website. So hopefully after this navigational tool that I have taken you out of the passenger seat into the driver's seat when it comes to Social Security.
Thank you, Ms. Blaine. That was very, very informative. I saw that one of our attendees had their hand up. Ms. Gibson, did you have a question? Simone Gibson? Your hand was raised.
While her hand is raised, I wanted to mention another program that we administer is the Supplemental Security Income. It is the SSI program for disabled children and adults and Asian individuals who have limited income. It is a need-based program for the most vulnerable population. So when people say SSI, Social Security, disability, Medicare, we handle all of those programs.
Thank you. I think I'm unmuted. Ms. Blaine, this is Simone Gibson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm very interested in setting up an account. Thank you very much for this tutorial. It's super informative. So I would like to set up an online account so I can navigate like you just showed us. My question is does Social Security have our address already because we're filing our taxes? And I'm asking that because I tried to set up my account, but it's saying it like doesn't recognize my address. But I know I have received Social Security notifications in years past telling me what I've earned over the years.
Internal Revenue Service, we do not have addresses per se, but Internal Revenue knows where to find you.
Okay, because so I'm trying to figure out what does Social Security use to match my address? Because my current address didn't work. Should I use a previous address to try to get them to verify me?
That's your tax return. Now, you've been technical. I'm not going to answer that. What I'm going to do is to have you to call that 1-800 number for that particular situation.
Okay,
Okay, because ordinarily Social Security would not have your address. You have to supply that address with us. And if you have problems navigating, a person will help you walk through it.
will do. Thank you so much.
Okay, there's
Righty.
another question. It says, right now, they only have Medicare Part A because they're still employed and she has an employee-sponsored insurance. The question is, when I officially retire from employment and therefore lose that insurance and need the Medicare Part B, this is about Medicare, though we're not there yet. Will I be penalized for applying Part B later? But we'll hold that question. The next question is, must your disability occur before age 65?
Yes. Yes. Once you are 65, quote unquote, you're no longer considered disabled. So your disability could occur at any age prior to age 65, if that's the question.
The next question is, if you are receiving Social Security and are still working, can your benefits increase eventually?
Yes. Now, that's where I want you, whoever, to go into our website. The answer is yes. You need to go into the website. There is a calculator that you could put in your earnings and what have you and see whether or not it makes a difference. It's on the
Okay.
website.
The next question is, can you get the same information in My Social Security, I guess.com? When attempting to set up an account on SSA.gov, it sent me to log in another way. It sent her to My Social Security. Does it matter which website, or do they both contain the same information?
They both should contain the same information. And I'm going to do a disclaimer, being away from the office for a whole year. I know there have been upgrades in the way that we log on. So I'm going to tell the person to do the same thing. Call that 1-800 number and have somebody to walk them through it, because I don't get involved with that part of it.
And the last question, the question and answer, and then I go to the chat. Do you have to be employed in order to receive disability benefits?
You have to have worked for at least 10 years. 5 out of the last 10 years in order to qualify. Good question. When you go into the website, it tells you all about the requirements for filing for disability benefits. And that particular question is addressed there. It asks you about your earnings, the length of time, the 5-month waiting period. When you go into that website under disability, it will navigate you to what is needed and the requirements. So
Okay,
you see that I am emphasizing the importance of using this website, and it will answer your questions.
okay. I think we have one more question. You asked me to unmute somebody for a question.
Yes, ma'am. Hello?
Okay, the
Hello?
question, please. We hear you.
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I think she answered my question a few seconds ago, but I was wondering, does a person need to go through those attorneys that are like on television if they want to apply? But she said there's no need to go through an attorney.
No, Social Security is free. Okay, now this is a personal thing. You always have an option, but we are there. And we have been doing this for 86 years. Anybody could walk in and apply for disability benefits, and we will assist them all the
Okay.
way through the appeals process. But you
Okay.
have an option, okay?
Okay, one last question. This is the last question because we have to move on. It says, do you receive a separate check for COLA or is it added to your monthly distribution?
It is added to your monthly distribution.
Okay, that's all time we have for questions on Social Security right now. Thank you so much, Mrs. Blaine. It has been very, very informative.
Well, good. Remember, stay in that driver's seat.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Woodbury will be back with us to discuss Medicare and Medicaid. Mr. Woodbury. Unmute. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I just unmuted. So with Medicare and Medicaid, one of the strange things about the world we live in, that if you work, you pay into Medicare, but you don't understand Medicare and Medicaid and the different plans they have because they don't talk about it or you don't know about it. I have doctors, architects, lawyers. They get bombarded once they turn 65 with Medicare with different plans. You see it all on the television around October 15th to December 7th, which is AEP, the annual enrollment period. They beat down your mailbox, they're knocking on your doors, trying to sell you a plan. And most people, what they usually do is they go with a plan that a friend has. And that's not the right thing to do because we all are different. So it's 3 different ways, 3 different things about Medicare that you should know about. Well, it's more than 3, but the main things is regular Medicare, which is Part A and Part B. And then you have Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. Then you have a Medicare supplemental plan. Medicare supplemental plans is like the Cadillac plan. But the thing about those plans are they only focus on the major medical. So for example, this year, 2023, they decreased Part B, which is $164 and I think 30 cents that a person has to pay for Part B. Part A is at a 0 cost. You pay nothing for Part A, as long as you work 10 years or 40 quarters and paid into the system. So the Medicare supplemental plan, it only focuses on major medical. It doesn't cover drugs, which is Part D. That's a totally different plan. So if you get a Medicare supplemental plan, the supplemental plan can vary in prices depending on which plan you pick up. Then you'll have to pay for Part B to Medicare, which is $164.30. Then after that, you'll have to pick up a Part D, which is prescription, because the government says, we don't care if you take medication or not. You need a Part D plan, and if not, they penalize you. So that is a Medicare supplemental plan. Medicare supplemental plans, most people who have Medicare supplemental plans mostly are people from the north because they travel down here when it gets cold. Now we're going to go to a Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan. So you have Medicare Advantage plans. That's what they talk about on these commercials. The mail that they send you, everything is zero. You pay nothing for this, you pay nothing for that. You only have to pay Part B. Those plans, how they try to get you is they try to lure you with different things. A plan could give you $400 for glasses. One might give you implants. One might tell you don't need no referrals. Another one might tell you, you know, we'll give you $2,500 for hearing. But they all try to pull you from different places. But the thing about it is the only way you should really focus is on your needs, what you need. Just because your friend is getting, you know, $125 for gas, you might not need that. You might need to get dental work. So you shouldn't follow a friend when it comes to these different plans, because it's so many different plans that's out here, and you have to find the right one for yourself. One of the things that a lot of people don't understand, younger people, is Medicare is not only for people that's seniors. I heard, well, the question that just came up for the last young lady was, she had Part A, she suspended Part B because she's working. So when I sit down with a person, I try to educate them to the best of my ability. For me, you have to see what works for you, because, for example, if you're going to a job and you have insurance and you're paying for insurance, most times people don't even know what they're paying for. So what I like to do is I like to look at the benefits of what the job is offering compared to what Medicare is offering, because you could be paying $30 copay when you go to the doctor every time you go, compared to a plan with Medicare Advantage. It could be a zero copay. You go to the hospital, and it could be a $35 copay for emergency rooms. When you go to one of these Medicare Advantage plans, it varies. You even have Medicare Advantage plan, you pay, it's a copay of $50, but if they admit you into the hospital, that fee is waived. With Medicaid, people can have Medicaid and Medicare. It all depends on how much you're bringing in. For example, a person that's you have to make less than $1,300 if you're single. But it's so many people that don't even know that they qualify for Medicaid. And when they get Medicaid, the Medicaid would pay for their Part B. So they'll be saving $164.30 far as with Medicaid. Going back to people that don't understand Medicaid, if you're disabled for more than 2 years, you can get Medicare. But you can use your 40 quarters, or you can use your mother or father's 40 quarters if they're retired. I think that would probably be about it far as with the Medicare and Medicaid.
Mr. Woodbury,
Yes.
and maybe it's me, but exactly what is the difference between Medicaid and Medicare?
So Medicare is for a person that's 65 or disabled for more than 2 years. Medicaid is ran by the state, and that's for people that's living in poverty. Medicare is a government program. Medicaid is a state program.
Okay, because I was always confused by that. You said Medicare and Medicaid. So Medicare is the federal
Government, yes. Medicare is government.
and Medicaid is run by the state.
Right, and it all depends on what state you're in, because the plans are different in different states.
Okay, but depending, you could get both.
You can get
Depending on
both
your
if you,
income, your monthly income.
correct. Depending, and you can't, some people try to get around it, but the government, they see all You have some people that try to, you know, do a spend down and spend all their money down or give it away and try to get Medicaid. But they can do a 5-year look back to see,
Okay.
you know, yes, ma'am.
Exactly what does Medicare Part A, is that it, cover?
Yes. Medicare Part A is hospital, Part B is medical, C is the Advantage, D is prescription.
Okay.
So for example, say for example, a person is 65 and they stopped working and they picked up Part A and Part B, and that was it. And they didn't pick up Part D, which is prescription, because you need prescriptions. Even if you're not even taking medication, the government says you need prescription. If you don't pick that up, the government will penalize you.
What do you mean they penalize you?
They
If you
penalize you
don't pick it up?
if you don't pick up a Part D plan. So they have, you can have A and B from the government, right? And then you can pick up an individual Part D plan for prescriptions. But it doesn't really make sense to pick up a Part D when you can pick up a Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan, and the Medicare Advantage plan has Part D built into it.
Mr. Woodbury, would you
Yes.
again, because we're taking notes out here, can you review again what is A, what is B, and then the C and D again?
Okay, Part A is hospital. B is medical, major medical. When you're working, you can, if a person is 65, they can just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get A, and then they suspend Part B because they have insurance on their job. That's what the young lady was saying earlier. She suspended Part B because she's still working. I don't know if she sat down with someone and said, hey, this is what I have from my job, and what does Medicare have? Because it's important to compare to make a good decision. You don't want to just say you want to suspend Part B, because you can probably get a Medicare Advantage plan and it costs you nothing because they have Medicare Advantage plans that'll pay your Part B. So B is medical. Part C is a Medicare Advantage plan. That's Humana, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Simply, Preferred, United, Devoted. It's so many different plans. And then D is just prescription.
Okay. There's another question in the box that says, are your Medicare benefits the same if you live in Florida and your injury or your sickness occurs in another state?
Can you say that again? What is the question?
It says, are your Medicare benefits the same if you live in Florida and your injury or sickness occurs in another state? So in other words, you live in Florida, your plan is here, but you're in New York and you get injured or have to go to the doctor, whatever, in the state of New York.
Okay, so Part A and Part B, you can go anywhere. You don't need referrals or anything, but if you get a Part C plan, you have Part C, which is again a Medicare Advantage plan. If you have that plan, and say for example, you in Africa and you get sick, you can go to the emergency room. It all depends on the plan. The plan will cover you outside the United States, but you have to know what's in your plan as far as the Medicare Advantage plan. So if you're in, again, Africa, Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, Japan, if you get sick, they have plans that will cover you outside of the United States and also inside of the United States. And it doesn't matter if it's an HMO, PPO, HMO, POS. It doesn't really matter. You just have to know what's in your plan.
If we change that and say you have private insurance and you also have Medicare, who takes care of what?
Medicare is primary.
So the Medicare would be first and then your
then
plan.
your private, right.
Okay. I
But
only asked
sometimes
it.
a lot of people have that, but it don't really make sense. It's not like you can double the benefits. People have, it's just like having, I don't know, 2 different cable companies. You're gonna still get the same channels. People feel like you can have Medicare and you can have regular insurance. You can't double the benefits.
Okay. please explain what happens when you turn 65 and your insurance from your job goes into Medicare. And it says, is AvMed or Humana Advantage plans a part of Medicare? That's the question.
Okay, so once you turn 65 and you get into a Medicare Advantage plan, on your job, they have different ones because, like, for example, the school board has their own insurance. You can keep that insurance, but you also have to find out what kind of insurance it is. It could be a Medicare supplemental plan. It could be a Medicare Advantage plan. It could be that this company, the company that you work with, might have a deal with that insurance company. And also, yes, AvMed and Humana are they have several Medicare Advantage plans.
Okay, it says, the next question is, it says, so you do not have a long-term care medical condition and or disability to apply for Medicaid. If you make less than $1,300 with Social Security with no other form of income, can you apply for Medicaid?
If you're single and you make less than $1,300, you can get Medicaid. Also with disabilities, you can't claim that you're disabled. It has to be on record. And then after that, you have to be disabled for more than 2 years.
Okay, but if you're not disabled, the question goes, if you're not disabled and you make less than $1,300 with Social Security with no other form of income, you can apply for Medicaid without having a medical issue, correct?
Right, yes.
Okay. The next question is, do Medicaid benefits reciprocate from state to state, which I think you answered.
Yes.
Okay, can Florida benefits be used in the state of Georgia? And the answer was
No.
yes. Okay,
No. So if you move from Florida to Georgia, then you got to get Medicaid in Georgia. And as a
okay.
matter of fact, they would suspend, they would drop you.
Well, let me ask something then. Let's say you live in Florida, you still live in Florida, but you spend 3 months out of the year in Georgia. Does Florida, what happens?
You'll still be a Florida resident and you can still get your insurance in there. But I want people to be aware is they have something called the MIB, the Medical Investigation Bureau. So for example, say you live in Dade County and you getting your prescriptions in Broward at a CVS, they can see that. So they'll drop your plan because these Medicare Advantage plans, they go from county to county. So in Dade County, the plans in Dade County supersedes any plans I've seen anywhere in any other state. Everything is almost zero compared to Broward.
So we should move to Dade County. No, I'm kidding.
Broward, now you got co-pays compared to Dade County. Yeah, they giving up everything in Dade County, man. You be blown away of the plans in Dade County. It's unheard of.
Okay, the next question is, how does Medicare differ from Obamacare?
So once you turn 65, you can't have Obamacare. You got to go to Medicaid.
Okay, so there's no Obamacare after 65.
No, you gotta have you have to have Medicaid or Medicare.
Okay. The
Yeah.
next question is, does Medicaid cover substance abuse?
Does Medicaid? I'm not sure, but Medicare Advantage plan does. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you can get therapy, substance abuse, but I'm not sure about Medicaid.
Okay. The next question is, if you have an Advantage plan, do you also have Part B?
Yeah, so you only can get a Medicare Advantage. You have to have A and B to get C. You can't have just A and then say you want C. You can't. No, you have to have A and B to get C. But the thing about it is, some people, once they hear the 164.30, they have to take out of their check. Or if you're still working, you have to be aware that you have to pay your Medicare quarterly. And if you don't pay it, then they'll drop you. So it's companies out here that will pay your Part B. you don't even have to have Medicaid, because most times when I'm helping a client out, they're trying to figure out how they can save the money from Part B. But if you have the correct Medicare Advantage plan, they will pay your Part B or a portion of it.
Okay, the next question is, please explain HMO/Advantage type plans versus selecting a PPO plan instead.
That's a good question. So a HMO is health maintenance organizations. So with HMOs, you have to have referrals compared to a PPO. PPOs, you don't need a referral. So it's almost like you want to be free. A lot of people, well, not a lot. Some people, once they realize you have copays, more copays with a PPO, they will go to an HMO. But for me, one of the questions that I ask clients or patients is, okay, what is the reason you want a PPO? Because when you say you want a PPO, 9 times out of 10, when you go to your primary care physician, the primary care physician is going to refer you to a friend or someone in their network. So it doesn't really make sense unless you know a slew of physicians. So they're going to send you to another doctor, and that doctor's going to take your plan, even if you have a PPO. So the difference is between these different plans is, one, you don't need referrals, and one, you do need referrals.
Okay, the coverage isn't particularly different then.
Oh, no, the coverage is. So you have more copays with a PPO. You have more copays. They will lower different things. For example, OTC is over the counter. With a HMO, you will get more benefits compared to a PPO. You have companies out here that's giving $330 for hold on one second. Hold on. They're giving, hold on, I'm sorry. They're giving $330 for OTC. OTC is over the counter. You can get vitamins, first aid kits, compression stockings. You can get blood pressure machines. You can get vitamins. With the PPO, they slash that stuff in half. You have some HMOs out here that give you money for healthy food, like chicken, fish, organic juice.
But you have to be within that.
Yeah, you got
those doctors, right?
Yes, with an HMO.
You can't. There's no choice. In other words.
No choice for what?
For the doctors, they have to be in the plan.
Yeah, they have to be in the plan. So with a PPO, you can go to a doctor that's outside the network, but it costs.
Okay.
And that's usually the major difference, because with your PPOs, if you have an existing physician relationship who might not be on the HMO plan, that might be a reason for why you would want to select going to a PPO versus an HMO.
Right.
Next question is, how are Social Security disability benefits affected for those who move from Medicare to Medicaid?
Okay, so that's a question for somebody in Social Security. I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, we'll have this person refer that to Ms. Blaine later. Okay, any other questions for Medicaid, Medicare? Any other questions on Medicaid, Medicare?
I don't have a question, just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent job, Mr. Woodbury, but most of the information that he covered is on that Social Security online. Comprehensive is very, very detailed, and it will more or less confirm what he has shared. So you'll have a chance to read it and understand about the different types of Medicare, the different parts and what have you. It is excellent. So go to your Social Security online. It's all there for you. Just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Blaine, and thank you, Mr. Woodbury, for doing double duty this morning. We appreciated it. We're now going to physical soundness. Our next speaker is Attorney Georgia M. Williams, and she is a partner with the Kelly Law Firm here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. She concentrates her practice in the areas of estate and tax planning, probate, and trust litigation administration. She represents corporate and individual fiduciaries, beneficiary, and heirs in all probate, trust, and guardianship settings. She earned her law degree with a certificate in estate and trust practice and a Master of Laws in Taxation from the University of Florida Levin College of Law. Attorney Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year. The first iteration of our Healthy Homestead program focused on estate planning in general. So in that program, we talked about wills and revocable trusts. And so I know many of you may not have heard that program, but my portion of the speech today is going to focus on documents that will assist you, estate planning documents that will assist you during your lifetime. And if you do have questions about wills or revocable trusts, you can drop them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer. When people think of an estate plan, or when you hear the term estate planning, most people think a will. But it's important to understand that a will does not take effect until two things happen. You have to be dead, and the court of jurisdiction over you, where you're domiciled, has to admit that will to probate. So a will on its own has no effect. It has no power. So many times I have clients come to me when someone goes into the hospital and they have a will in their hand and they say, oh, mom named me as personal representative under the will. That will has no effect. So if you're thinking about getting your affairs in order, a will is not going to help you in your lifetime. It's only going to assist with post-death affairs when you're trying to figure out who gets what in terms of your estate and your assets, and who gets to manage that and administer that. So my speech today is going to focus on what I call the lifetime documents that assist. And those documents are 4 main documents that I'm going to focus on today. Those documents are a durable power of attorney, a designation of healthcare surrogate, a living will, and a pre-need guardian designation. Okay, so those 4, I'll go over them again: durable power of attorney, designation of healthcare surrogate, living will, and a HIPAA authorization, and a designation naming pre-need guardian. Okay, so I'll go through each one. A durable power of attorney is when you execute a durable power of attorney, you name someone to manage your financial decision-making affairs in the event that you are incapacitated. The document itself is very powerful. It's a broad, overreaching document, and any agent that has that signed document in their hand can go and make any financial transactions that you would make if you were around. So they can open bank accounts, close accounts, they can sue, they can defend lawsuits, they can take out life insurance policies, they can sign you up for things, they can execute documents like trusts and things of that nature. So when you are creating a durable power of attorney, you really need to be mindful of who you are naming in that role to be an agent. And you need to make sure that that person has complete trust, and you understand that that person will make the decisions that you otherwise would make. Because what you do when you have a power of attorney in your hand is you're going and you're fiduciary. So you have duties of loyalty and impartiality. You have duties against self-dealing, but you have those duties to the principal. So with a power of attorney in your hand, you can't go and make the decisions that you want to make. You should be making decisions in the best interest of the principal, or you should be taking actions as instructed by the principal. And so that's the first document that only deals with finances. It only deals with transactions. It does not cover your healthcare decision-making. Healthcare decision-making is governed by a designation of healthcare surrogate, or in other states, some call it a healthcare proxy. So that document is a document that is similar to a power of attorney, but now we're talking about healthcare decision-making. And so you are naming someone that can give instructions to the doctors about whether to do a certain procedure or not. Anything that you would be deciding about your care and your custody of your person, that decision can be made by a healthcare surrogate. Some healthcare surrogate documents build in a HIPAA authorization. And that is HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. But most of us know HIPAA because we interact with our physicians and they always want a HIPAA release. When you have a designation of healthcare surrogate, that document can incorporate a HIPAA authorization, or you may have a separate document. But what that does, it allows the agent or some other person to be able to get access to your protected health information. And so the two documents work together. Let's say you're in a hospital and you're incapacitated, and the doctors are recommending that let's amputate a leg or something because it would help with some procedure. As your surrogate, you can make that decision. You can tell the doctor, yes, I consent to that procedure for the principal. But the HIPAA authorization will allow you to say, you know what, let me get access to these health records. Let me go get a second opinion. Let me see if someone else is going to recommend the same course of procedure as the current physician that we're consulting with. And so that's how those two documents work together. In my practice, I have two separate documents, but many healthcare surrogate documents build in the HIPAA authorization into the healthcare surrogate document. So that's the first two. The living will. I'm going to spend a little time on a living will because there's much confusion out there and things. So my first comment is a living will is not a last will and testament. And so I talked about what a will was. A last will and testament is a document that decides how your assets are distributed after you pass away. That's different from a living will. A living will is also not a living trust. A living trust is synonymous with a revocable trust. Sometimes you also see it as a revocable living trust, and that's a completely separate document. It's an agreement with a trustee. So a living will is simply a declaration of whether you choose to implement life-sustaining procedures or not. That's what it is. The document says, in the event that you're there's three conditions that are usually covered in a living will. So in the event you're in an end-stage condition, you're in a persistent vegetative state, or you're in a terminal condition, you are indicating in that living will document whether you wish or you do not wish to have life-sustaining procedures implemented. That's it. The document doesn't give anybody rights. It just is to state, this is what I would want to happen if I'm in a vegetative state, end stage condition, or terminal condition. Sometimes you will see, and not particularly in Florida, but in other states, the living will is also built into the healthcare surrogate document. So you may have a living will, you may have a healthcare surrogate document, and you may have a HIPAA authorization all built into one. In other practices, they're separate documents. And in Florida, most of you who were around in Florida in 2005, you might be familiar with the Terri Schiavo case. And that case is what really birthed the living will in Florida. So in 2005, Terri Schiavo was 25 years old, and she had a full cardiac arrest. She was in the hospital in a vegetative state. And the question was, so she was brain damaged. She was not, the prognosis was she would never fully recover. And she was being sustained by a feeding tube. And that had gone on for 15 years. And so she had a husband, and the husband had stated that it would have been her decision to remove herself from those tubes and not be sustained artificially. And her parents said, no, keep her on the feeding tubes for as long as you can. And that was the fight. And there was no declaration from Terri, signed by Terri, saying what she would want to have happen if she's in that situation. And so that's where, ultimately the statute provides an order of priority for who can make decisions for you if you're in this circumstance. The statute has always been what it was. And so statutorily, the husband had priority to make, well, statutorily, you have the priority to make a decision. So that's the importance of these documents. The importance of the documents is when you are incapacitated, you are no longer able to say, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want this to happen. And so these documents are your voice. These documents are naming what you want to have happen and who you trust to make the decisions that you would make if you had capacity to do so. And so those documents receive first priority. Statutorily, if those documents are not in place and you're married, then your spouse gets to make those decisions. And it's a spouse. It's not a estranged spouse, doesn't get excluded. So if you and your spouse are separated for many years and you all have started 2 different lives, that's still your spouse, and that person still has priority. In the Terri Schiavo case, the reason why media picked it up and there was a big controversy is because her husband at the time was dating someone and he had moved on in a relationship. And so the parents were, the parents felt as if they were the best people to make these decisions on behalf of their daughter. But statutorily, that's not the order of priority. So they could not trump the husband's priority under the laws of Florida. But if Terri had indicated what she wanted to have happen, her wishes and desires would have been the priority. And the designation of the healthcare surrogate that you name, their sole purpose is to advocate for you as you have indicated you wish to be advocated for. So those are the 3. I've gone through the 3. The last document is a declaration naming pre-need guardian, or sometimes it's called a pre-need guardian designation. And so I call that document a backup to a backup. So if we implement an estate plan that has a durable power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate document, then your financial needs are met, your healthcare needs are met. And if you are not able to care for yourself, your agents should be able to do everything that's needed to be done without any court involvement or any, they should be able to carry on and help you facilitate through life. If you do not have any of these people named, then you have to go to court and have a guardianship. And so the guardianship process is declaring that you're incapacitated and unable to make decisions, and then appointing a guardian to make those decisions for you. So what we're doing when we have a pre-need guardian designation in our estate plan is we're saying these documents should facilitate and should alleviate the need to go to court, but sometimes you go to court. And so if we end up in court, this is the person that you want to be your court appointed guardian, which again is a different role than your power of attorney and your healthcare surrogate. And so that's why I call it a backup. But it happens. I had a case recently and there was a guardianship opened for a woman. Her husband had died during COVID. And so there wasn't much interaction with her and her family members. So I think it took a while for people to understand that when her husband was alive, he was kind of driving the boat and taking care of everything. He died during COVID. And then it surfaced that she really needed assistance. She had done a full estate plan and she named her ex-sister-in-law as her agent under these documents. Her brother, the ex-husband, her brother filed for guardianship. And so that designation of pre-need guardian document was critical in that situation to show the court that this is who she wants to be named her guardian. And so that's where that document is needed. If we ever end up in a court situation, in a court proceeding, you're saying this is who I want to be my guardian. So it is important when you're thinking about these people, don't just name your kids because they're your kids. You have to think through, who do I trust? Who has prudent financial decision-making? Who will I, trust my decisions to trust to take care of me? I've had clients that, love their kids, but say, I don't really think that my kid is going to be able to take care of me because they can't take care of themselves. So they name someone else that's helpful, that they trust to take care of them. It's just important, thought and consideration should go into that decision. I know that sometimes when you have multiple kids, you're concerned that this one's going to feel away and that one's going to feel away, but you really should make the decision that's best for you and who you want to step in and take care of things. And so that's the physical soundness documents. These are the documents that are going to help you, because when people think about distribution of assets and ending, I always tell people, sometimes we don't die. Sometimes we get in an accident and we're disabled, we're incapacitated, we're not able to care for ourselves. So in addition to a will, these lifetime documents are critical, because if you don't have a power of attorney and you end up in court for a guardianship is a very expensive proceeding. And so there's actually two proceedings in a guardianship. You have the mental health portion where we determine if you're incapacitated, and then a guardian is appointed until you have capacity. So if this is a situation where you will never regain capacity, a guardian will be appointed forever until you pass away. And so that is continued attorney fees and court fees and filing fees for a guardianship. So if you have the wherewithal to think through the decisions, it's really about planning and being active about your decision-making that's really going to make the difference. I always say, an estate plan is beneficial to not just to pass the assets, but it's the plan and the people that you name to kind of ease the burden on them and facilitate management both while you're alive and when you pass away. So those are the documents. I just wanted to touch on a bit about prepaid funeral arrangements. Most people don't really think about prepaid funeral arrangements, but I think it's helpful to both do prepaid funeral arrangements, and if you don't do that, kind of write out what your burial plan is or your burial wishes are, so that people can understand what you want to have happen. When you take out a funeral arrangement pre-death, you do get a slight discount when you're doing those arrangements when someone is still alive, but it eases the financial burden of where are we going to find the money to bury someone or cremate someone. I mean, I've seen funerals that are like $40,000 in fees. And if you don't, you're not, when someone passes away, this is also important. When someone passes away, the power of attorney document is no longer valid. You are an agent for a principal. When that principal dies, you can no longer be an agent. So if somebody passes away and all you have is a power of attorney, and that is the only document that allows you access to assets, you're not going to use their funds to do the funeral. You're going to have to use your own funds with a plan to be reimbursed at some point in the future. So you should always consider prepaid funeral arrangements. And then I wanted to touch a little bit on the Medicaid issue. So there is a branch of practice in the law. It's called elder law. And many elder law attorneys handle guardianship matters, and they also handle Medicaid planning. And so I'm not an elder law attorney, but I will leave my information in the chat so that you could reach me. And if you want a recommendation for an elder law attorney, I'm happy to get you to one. But if you are 65 or older and eligible for Medicaid, then you may want to consider communicating with an elder law attorney so that they could do some planning. If you're getting close to 65, then you should also consult an elder law attorney for Medicaid planning. For Medicaid, you have to be old enough, poor enough, and sick enough. And so the old enough is 65 or older, poor enough is, income and asset limits that you'll go over. And the poor enough part is either, you qualify and you can go to someone to discuss Medicaid and do some planning considering Medicaid. And then the sick enough part is your activities of daily living. So that's, are you able to be responsible for your taking a shower, getting dressed, administering your own medication? There's a list of those activities. And if you're disabled or you need assistance with a certain number of those activities, then you will be able to qualify for Medicaid. So those are the three areas.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Williams. And that was very, very, very informative. Let me just say, when she was talking about the living will and your pre-funeral arrangements. Most of you know that my mother passed away in 2021. She had a living will. When she passed away, she was incapacitated. And I went to the emergency room and they said, well, we have her on life support now, but you're going to have to make some decisions in just a few hours or so. And I'm thinking, thank you, Mom, because she had a living will and I'd already seen it. I knew it. I had a copy of it and I didn't have to make that decision because she had already made it. And you just don't know how much I appreciated that, being in that situation. All I had to do was take the document to the hospital so that they could verify that what she wanted, and that was it. And as far as the funeral arrangements are concerned, I did pre-planning for her. I mean, everything was done. I didn't have to. One of the things that we talked about when we were putting this on was our mental health and how these things are for your peace of mind. Now, sometimes mental health comes from some physical something and you have a problem, but sometimes it's because you are so worried about things that have to be done. And frankly, I'd like to say this just really gives you peace of mind. I didn't have to do it because she'd already done it. We'd already done the pre-planning, so it was all done. I mean, I won't say it was a piece of cake, but it was so much easier. I didn't have to do it. Everything was arranged. Everything was in order. The funeral home already had it. So I do say to you, the pre-planning funeral arrangements and the living will, those are two things that, make it easier on your family and easier on yourself to have. Now we're going to take questions. Let me see. I'm gonna go to the chat first and see if there's a question. No, I don't have one there. Any questions? If you do have questions for Attorney Williams, please put them in the question and answer of the chat. Anybody have questions?
I see one here from Rosine Ferris. It says, so it's possible to name 4 different people to handle your affairs. And the answer to that is yes. You can name, so remember I mentioned some roles. I mentioned agent for or under the power of attorney. I mentioned the agent for healthcare surrogate. You also have a trustee if you have a trust in place. And yes, so let's say, for example, you have 3 children. One child is a doctor and one child is an accountant. So you might think, okay, if I go in the hospital, I want my physician child to make the decisions for my healthcare, but I don't necessarily want him to be burdened or her to be burdened with caring for my finances and making financial decision making, paying my bills. You could have another child that may be able to be more time, they could devote more time to bill paying. So in that case, you can name your child that's in the healthcare industry as your healthcare surrogate, and you can name your child, you can name someone else as your power of attorney to bifurcate the roles that they have to do, because being a caregiver is a very, very hard task. It's stressful, it's draining, especially when you're a caregiver for someone you love and you care about, you're concerned about this person's end of life, plus you're having to do a ton of responsibilities. So yes, you can name different people in different roles. For a personal representative in Florida, most states refer to that term as an executor. In Florida, we call them a personal representative. Your personal representative has requirements. So in order to serve as a personal representative, if that person lives out of state, that person lives out of the state of Florida, in order for them to serve as a personal representative, they have to be related by blood or marriage. So you just have to keep that in mind. And that's one of the main reasons why I tell people, talk to an attorney before you do a will, because if you're sitting at your computer on LegalZoom and you're thinking, who do I want to be my personal representative? And you have an accountant in New York, or you have your best friend and she lives in Connecticut, and you want to name these people in that particular role, in that role of executor, executrix, what we call personal representative, those two people that I named, your accountant that in New York or your best friend that lives in Connecticut, none of those persons qualify to serve as a personal representative in Florida. That person has to either be in Florida or they have to be related by blood or marriage if they live out of state.
Any other questions? I don't see any other questions in the question and answer box or the chat box. Does anybody have questions? No other questions? Okay, then Attorney Williams has put her information in the chat. And I'd like to just thank our three presenters, Mr. Woodbury, Ms. Blaine, and Attorney Williams, for their time and commitment to this program. I think it was very informative, and I'm delighted that you chose to assist the community in this effort by giving them much needed information. I'd also like to thank our co-sponsors in this webinar, Healthy Homesteads 3, which are the New Mount Olive Baptist Church, Mount Hermon AME Church, AARP of South Florida, and the West Side Gazette. You can see them there on our flyer. And I'd also like to thank our audience and our community for showing up. It has been our pleasure and our duty to impart as much needed information to you as we can. I'd also like to thank from our first, I'm going back now, our first Healthy Homestead 1, Gwen Cherry Black Women Lawyers Association for our Healthy Homestead 1, and HSBC for our Healthy Homestead 2, who are also sponsors. Healthy Homesteads 1, 2, and 3 will be on our website so you can review. I don't know if Veronica can tell us about how long it will take to get them on there, but please be checking our website for them. Our website is www.fortlauderdalelinks.org, www.fortlauderdalelinks.org. And they also will be available to loan out as well. I want to thank you again for showing up, and I ask that you please fill out the evaluation, which should be appearing on the screen momentarily. I think I put in there 1 minute to do this, so it'll be on the up for 1 minute. Please do fill out the evaluation.
Ms. Veronica or Ms. Sally, do we have our results?
Yes.
Then we will now have comments by our the president of the Fort Lauderdale Links chapter, Mrs. Sylvia Sloan Jones.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much to everyone for being here this afternoon or beginning in the morning. I do think that we can all agree that everything that we have heard has been extremely informative and information that all of us can use. But I am going to encourage everyone not only to use it for your own personal benefit, but use it as an opportunity to bless someone else that you might know that would also need this information. As Judge Mary Robinson has said, I definitely want to thank each and every one of our presenters, Mr. Woodbury, Mrs. Blaine, and of course, Attorney Williams, for sharing your passion, knowledge, information with the community. As a member of the Fort Lauderdale Links chapter, we are indebted into serving and providing resources for our community. So we thank you for partnering with us to ensure that our community can benefit from your information. I also want to thank our chairman of this committee, Ms. Cynthia Borders, and our co-chairman, again, Attorney Judge Mary Rudd Robinson, for pulling together, along with the committee, a series of valuable information. So as she said, if you missed 1, 2, and you kind of came in and out of 3, we're going to invite you to come back and again, listen to all of those topics, because every one of those presentations could be life-changing. And lastly, to the members of the Fort Lauderdale chapter who are present, I thank you for your support, and to ensure that as members of the Fort Lauderdale chapter of the Links, we continue to be committed to service. And now, to all of our participants who have come into this Zoom today and those who have joined us in the past, we are just again so grateful. We want you to know that we are truly committed to making our community a stronger and better place to live, but we cannot do that without you. So let's look forward to many more opportunities for us to partner together as community to serve not only ourselves, but to serve others. And lastly, we wish you a very happy New Year. And we look forward to a great 2023. And I think we forgot our Facebook, but if there are those on Facebook, we thank you too for coming into our Facebook presentation. And again, we just welcome everyone to continue following us on our website and just looking for greater in 2023. I'll turn it back over to Attorney Mary Rudd Robinson.
Thank you again, and this concludes our webinar. Good afternoon.